So first of all, and I'm going to introduce you, and then we all come up at once. How about that? Okay. So Dina Trujillo, I have known for decades. Oh, and she is the CEO of Crisis Text Line, a nonprofit providing free, confidential, 24/7 mental health support via text. And Dina previously spent 17 years with the Omidyar Group, where we met each other. And then we have Selena DeSola, who is an incredible MC. If you need an MC, she's the MC at the Skull World Forum. Amazing. But she also, in her part-time, is co-founder and president of Glasswing International, which operates in 11 countries. She has over 25 years of experience in international development, social change. Yet these folks are so young. Juan Pablo Villani, founder of Akia Stoy chat and mental health creator with, more than 1 million followers. Wow. I have at least 10. There you are. Welcome them up, and I can help you up on the stage. Hey, all right. Clappy, clappy, clap. Sing it, sing it, sing it. That's right. All right. Okay. So now we have the change maker. Some change makers up here. I know they're tricky, but they look so cool. And that's what counts. That's what counts, people. Okay, so I am going to open up our questions with, we're at the UN. So how does mental health connect to sustainable development goals, the SDGs? And what role can each of us play in advancing it? Because I think that's a good question. You know, they don't have it necessarily in the SDGs. So maybe, Dina, I'll start with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, mental health is actually represented in SDG number 3 about health and well-being, although it was added during COVID, which goes to show you if people didn't know that. So it wasn't really seen as important until in COVID, everybody looked around at themselves and everybody else and said,
we're falling apart.
We're falling apart, right?
Yeah.
So then they added it into that SDG. But the reality with mental health is that it's connected to all of the SDGs, right? So if you're dealing with poverty, with financial insecurity, with violence, that creates trauma, right? And then if you're getting fed and you're getting educated and you're getting cared for, you're going to have better mental health. So it isn't just one SDG, it is all of them.
It's all of them. That's exactly it. That's what we say about the entertainment part of it too. There's some penumbra, I would say, goals that we do as the halo around them all. Selena, I would love to hear from you. How do you see mental health connected to the Sustainable Development Goals, and where do you see your organization playing a role in that, or where everyone else can?
You're going to have to tell me what penumbra means later.
Oh, it's really cool. Yeah. It's right behind the eclipse where you just see the halo of the sun, cool. But you know it's there.
Okay,
I know.
Perfect. Thanks. I would have been thinking about that the rest of the panel. I think it is. Like Dina said, it is foundational. It's really tough to do anything. And you can't even, your brain cannot access learning. If you're hypervigilant or hyper-aroused, everybody in the room, we're all here because we care about mental health. And I think that the exciting thing is that it is connected to the SDGs, and it's also something that we can all get involved in. And I think that's been mentioned in the other panels before. And one of the things we're trying to do, I think we've been working with young people for a long time, and I think we were focused on working directly with young people, and we still are, but then we were like, what about the caretakers? And right now you were talking about in film, like everybody that's involved in what it means to create a film or a production. And in that same vein, what is a system involved, right? So it's not just like what do young people need, but also who in the system are they interacting with? Teachers, nurses, doctors, law enforcement, for better or worse, who are we interacting with, and how can every person be a part of creating ecosystems that understand how stress impact them, their peers, and those they serve. So if we understand it better, we'll know what we're bringing to every interaction and hopefully interact better. So I think, we're really trying to, and that's why I think we all work together, we're really trying to figure out how every person, not just professional mental health providers, can be a part of it.
Yeah, and Heather, can I jump in?
Yeah,
I forgot
absolutely.
to say, what part can people do?
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And I love, so Crisis Text Line, we exist, and so does Glasswing, because of amazing volunteers. Because the reality is there aren't enough mental health workers out there to address the problem, and we simply can't train them enough, right? Like there's a suicide every 43 seconds in the United States. Not in the United States, that's globally. And when you think about the number of people that die every year by suicide, it is larger than HIV, and it is larger than malaria, right? And so this is a huge problem that cannot be addressed through only simply through official professional mental health channels. So our ratio at Crisis Text Line, while we provide support in the US and through partners in other countries, our numbers are that we have 80 professional clinicians overseeing 16,000 volunteers a year, overseeing 1.5 million conversations a year, and then at least another 1.5 million conversations happen on the ground because those volunteers learn skills like empathy, active listening, holding space for people that are different than them, and de-escalation skills. So while one, if you would love to be a volunteer, we would love to have you. It's very easy, training at your home on your computer at your own time. But what I loved was what you guys just covered in this Blackbird session, those skills that you were talking about, right? The identifying the 10 colors, identifying the 5 things, getting present, teaching breathing skills. What do you say? How do you respond rather than react? Teaching those response skills, that is something that everybody can do, because the reality is the problem is getting worse every day because of all the climate change and everything. And so if we don't give each other the power to address it, it won't be addressed. It comes down to each of us.
Well, and what I like about that is your volunteers are actually an army of people that are not just interacting online, but they're going out there in the world. And you get 16,000 who probably have 10 friends each, who probably, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like your volunteers are even changing the communities with these different skills. Because I took that a little differently last panel. I was like, ooh, I think I react. So that was good for me to hear. I was like, oh, I could respond maybe some. That's a choice. That was very helpful. So thank you for that. And I would agree. And Juan Pablo, I wanted to turn to you because we're talking about how we can create a culture of care for mental health. And, by what we're doing, by what the volunteers are doing, but also for people who are struggling online. Because I know, I grew up pre-Google, which is like pre-Cambrian, and a lot of kids didn't. So how do we really help them, people struggling online?
Yeah, thank you for being here. For me, it's an amazing place. Thank you. First of all, I think that there's two ways of helping online. One that I don't like, and other that I really like. And let me first talk about something. When we get a physical harm, no? You broke your legs, you will probably go to a doctor, okay? But when you have mental problems, many people don't go to psychologists, don't go to look for help. Indeed, don't go to Crisis Text Line or any place to receive help. They go online, to social media, to their own room, to the darkest place, to not show to anyone what they are suffering. So the thing is, many governments, NGOs, etc., say they are helping and they are online where the people are. But the thing is, it's not enough to have an Instagram page. It's not enough to have a website. We have to create viral videos and be there where the people are swiping and appear them, and not only say a good message that can be seen by 3 seconds and okay, we have to break the glass. We have to find ways to give a hug to that person and say, hey, we are here and we are open to talk with you if you are feeling bad. And that is what we're trying to do. We did, and that's the thing we are very proud of it, that we did succeed in how to break the glass and to be with so many people, thousands of people that were suffering online, and then they crossed that border, that fourth wall of the social media, so to receive help.
I'm going to go a little deeper on that then, because we are talking about how media really works. It's not pushing the boulder uphill against the wind. And you went to where you met them. What did some of those videos look like on TikTok or wherever you were, Instagram? How do you reach those kids?
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. Just to let you know, for me, I am not born as a content creator, but when I decided to start this NGO, I said, hey, I have to be online, I have to be reaching the people, so I have to create videos. And the videos are so easy, so simple, like saying, and on the face video saying, hey, are you suffering right now? Are you struggling with something? We are a 100 volunteer team wanting to help you right now, in this moment, through WhatsApp. And so many clicks over that, and so many viral videos that we have a problem with that. Only one video have 128 million views. Only one.
Wow.
128 million views. You can imagine how many people write to us saying, "Hey, yes, I need your, I need your support, please." And what's the problem with that? We weren't enough volunteers. We reached to 100 volunteers providing emotional support, but in 1 hour we received more than 4,000 people asking for help. So the problem was many comments saying, hey, you are saying you are offering support, but you can't do that support.
Right.
And you can imagine like comments like empathy scammer or something like that. No,
exactly. Well, and I think that's a problem that I bet a lot of people in here who are change makers and NGOs have struggled with, which is my mom always said, too much water can kill the flower just as too little. And in scaling, sometimes it's really frustrating because you're like, we're trying to be the good guy, and people get mad when you aren't able to scale when you're trying to get out that message, which leads me to Dina, because I know you have a global strategy. How could we solve this problem? Scale. How do you do that?
Right. So we're obsessed with scale at Crisis Text Line because everybody in the world is looking for this human-to-human connection, right? The number one question we get asked by our texters is, are you real? Are you human? Mm-hmm. People are lonely, and they want to connect with another person. And so we are determined to solve that, and we're not going to stop until we're accessible to everyone. And so we had been expanding our model country by country, but that's just not fast enough. And Juan Pablo came to us 6 years ago now, asking if we could expand to Latin America, and we weren't ready yet. We needed our model to get more scalable. And so he, with this innovation that he has, started Aquí Estoy on WhatsApp. And then our team helped share some of our training, and we experimented with maybe we can help him copy us. And then last year, Juan Pablo came back and shared this story around the scaling challenges, right, of amazing social media, amazing innovation, amazing scalability, that a lower cost model than our US model, but only able to support about 1/3 of the people coming. And so we officially announced yesterday that Aquí Estoy has officially been acquired in nonprofit parlance, which really means they're just part of us now.
Fantastic.
So together, we're still looking for funding. So the pace of scale, all depends on funding. So right now we're bootstrapping, but we are getting to the point of moving it to 24/7 and moving it to be able to support people under 18, because has been supporting about 14,000 conversations a year across 20 Spanish-speaking countries, right? That's huge. And so we're so grateful that we've been supporting 5% of the world, or accessible to 5% of the world. Now through this partnership, we're accessible to 12% of the world. And the goal is to get, quite frankly, to the whole world, but to at least 25% in the next couple years.
Well, that takes partnerships. Hello, We know Selena at Glasswing. You've partnered with Crisis Text Line, and what are your goals with the partnership? Because that's what I love about this panel.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and even now, right, even more so now, I think we're all, again, there's so many experts in the room, but given the constraints in funding and the context, it's a great time to come together and partner. And Dina said earlier, and well, both of you, about the importance of human connection. And so about 5 years ago, we met through Skoll with Dina, and actually it might have been here too.
Yeah.
And we
Literally
were talking
5 years ago at the Skoll event.
Yeah. So I think this idea of the human interaction, we are analog for now, but we've trained 62,000 frontline workers in 3 countries in Latin America. And we're moving towards, the curriculums being integrated into teachers' colleges, police academies, right? It's trauma psychoeducation. It's like accessible, simple information. It's called Sanamente, which means healthy minds, healthily. I know there's Spanish speakers in the room. So the idea is we're trying to create these trauma-informed ecosystems working with existing frontline workers in government. And so how do we help when frontline workers are deployed? How do we help make sure they have access to information? Nothing's new, right? We're just providing information that exists. And how can they then be trauma informed in the way they interact with themselves, with their peers, and with the communities they serve? And what better way to be able to complement that with also having access through WhatsApp? So it's almost like this referral cycle, right? Where someone can start off with Aquí estoy, through this merger, and then be referred, or vice versa. We can recommend that both for frontline workers and for communities. So you have this kind of feedback loop. We work with systems in country. We're based in El Salvador. That's where I'm from. So we work in all these different countries. So you're really trying to get, you're trying to just provide the knowledge and skills at the systems level locally that can then be complemented by access to WhatsApp, which is really what we use all over Latin America. Like that's our way of communicating, and even more so with kids now. So I think that complementing that, and also, we're working together. CTL's got a whole history of data. So how do we get data? How do we collect and analyze data to understand better where the hotspots are, what's happening with frontline workers, what's happening with young people, so then we can better tailor what we're doing. And also work with our government partners so they understand what those pressure points are in a geographic. You can geolocate that. And I think that's something that works really well when you're a local organization and you can partner with, local and regional, and you can partner with a global platform like that. It really can help us move the needle, I think, on a policy level. And then that kind of human complement, analog complement on the ground. So.
That is such a cool model, that you're able to bring human elements in, because usually when we were talking about scale lately, it's all been scaling with AI. That's where the scale is, and this is the scale with humans, which is required in this instance. But you're also talking about data. And I know this wasn't on our list, but I'm fascinated with the data you all are collecting and any insights you have that are kind of aha moments. Like what you talked about, disasters the other day, and that long tail I thought was fascinating. Just things we didn't know of. And I'd love to hear from you too, Juan Pablo, if you've found data that you're kind of struck by. I know that wasn't on our questions, so if I'm putting you on the spot.
I told you we would roll with anything you gave
good.
us.
I'm just so curious about that. So,
do you want to take it from me too? I want to also just comment on what Selena shared. Like, this is the moment, right? We're all seeing funding decrease, accessible funding decrease, and you've got 3 kind of innovative organizations here that are saying, how can we have more impact together? And we are more technology, data insights driven, can really scale globally. But the work, true mental health system change can't work unless it's localized and culturally appropriate. So being able to partner with Aquí Estoy and Glasswing creates this really wraparound solution and is going to enhance our data insights. So we use AI to power our insights and to give our volunteers superpowers, right? And our supervisors superpowers. But when we look at the data, we have everything from what you were commenting on. we can look at hurricanes, floods, climate events, and we can see when people are coming for help. So during the immediate incident, people are really asking, they're sharing their fears, and they're looking for immediate resources. But then we see in our data that 6 days later, 6 weeks later, 6 months later, that's when the suicidal ideation and the self-harm and the serious repercussions are really spiking. And we see that when we look at third-party data sets, that's also happening in emergency rooms. But when you look at all of our data sets, let's see what we're gonna be doing together. Selena has a lot of analog, amazing research on the impact of her programs. We're going to be able to have their information in our database, our information of all of the IKEA Story conversations, and be able to see where are their hotspots of gender-based violence, of migration, of depression, of disordered eating, and are the appropriate resources on the ground. And so the idea is not only how do we keep making ourselves better, faster, lower cost so we can support more people, but then how do we take those insights and share them with the WHO, with PAHO, with governments so that we can better allocate resources for decision making. And in a day and age where there's going to be increasing migration, and displacement because of climate events, and most other data sets are 2 to 3 years old. Wow. Like our near to real time data is going to become more important, especially for actors like Glasswing to then use on the ground.
Can I say something quickly because of the intersection we're talking about today? I think, and the studies that we're doing studies with the World Bank, so obviously they're looking at things differently, and you have the kind of the pairing of qualitative and quantitative and randomized control and all these things. But then there's like, when you guys were talking, it's like the story. Like we also need to make sure that we have the data, we have the research, but we also have to have the story. And I think that's been a thread today. And I think that you're also really good at that. So I'm curious to hear from you.
Well, I will be honest. I will be completely honest. When I started Aquí Estoy Chat, I get moved because I was running in a park and I saw some faces, in the park. I didn't realize what is that face is in photographs, big photograph, and then it's a title at the header of those photos saying the last photo. And I see one photo, and then other, and then other, and then these were the last photos these people have taken and have shared in social media before they suicide. Okay, they commit suicide. And at that moment, I remember I fell to the floor and I started crying because I was living one of my worst moments at that moment. And for me was I have to do something. I have to do something with my pain and with I am feeling here. So I have to start. Besides, I don't have the money enough. I don't have many things. We have to start. So I found a crisis text line, and I was like in the middle of trying to build something related to mental health. And I say, I will build the same thing. I will contact them. They weren't enabled right now to come to Latin America. I am from Argentina. I was in Argentina at that moment. And they say, we are not right now, but of course we want to be there, but we need to work more on that. Okay, I will build it. I will build something like Crisis Tech Line in Latin America, and I hope in some years after we can be acquired by a Crisis Tech Line. Huh? So, yeah, I mean.
Okay, I love that story. I love that story so much. Well, because, I've worked in the social good sector for 20 years too, and there's so much talk about competition. And I think there's the dream, potentially, of co-opetition. There's the dreams of collaboration and the dreams of ecosystems. But I do think funding can sometimes get in the way. And you all, it seems like, have figured out a way to be very complementary in the way that it uses all your skills. And you actually wanted to be co-opted, which is really interesting. So I think that's fascinating because when I think of film, we're thinking about ecosystems that support any sort of film creation, from accelerators to incubators, creating that entire constellation. And I think this is the type of constellation from a change-making perspective that is really showcasing how that works. And in my head, everywhere from creation, script development, all the way through distribution and activation. And then I would apply it onto this. So I'm just really amazed. Yeah, I'm amazed by that.
We look forward to the story in a few
Yes,
years.
I'm already thinking of it. I hope somebody's writing the script out there. Come on. I'm into rom-coms. I just finished my first one. So make this a rom-com. You can make this, what else? Action film, Star Trek, sci-fi. And think about that. But how do you navigate those funding challenges in talking about you're an ecosystem as opposed to potentially an individual? I don't know if you do that.
I think it's a constant navigation. It's also, I mean, there's not just us three. There's so many people working on mental health, and I think we're all trying to figure out how to connect. And there's also so many people working in so many countries directly, like youth-based organizations, small local community-based organizations. And I think we collectively look for funding, right? Like, how do we go to someone together? I think my understanding is that funders are interested now in looking at more collective initiatives. And I think we just need to keep learning because the reality is there is competition in the funding landscape, just like there is in other sectors. And we just need to figure that out. And at the end of the day, we also, I think, have the responsibility to make sure that organizations in other parts of the world, we're in Latin America, but we talk a lot across, Southern Africa. We've been talking to organizations, over many years and learning. We learn from each other. Like, I know we've adopted strategies from Waves for Change, Grassroots Soccer, like other NGOs, Indian NGOs. So I think, given that we're doing that more because you don't want to reinvent the wheel, I think it also is important that when we seek funding, we think about the ecosystem in very broad terms. And I think that with kind of, everybody's like, have the abundance mentality, and you're like, really, I just had 40% of my budget cut. It's not easy to have an abundance mentality. It's not, even if everybody tells you to, and all your funders are like, oh, think in abundance. You're like, so I think we've had amazing partners, and I think there are a lot of foundations here. Skoll, who supports so many social entrepreneurs, is one of them, and I think we need to just keep doing that. And I think we have to find ways and make sure we pull a lot of other actors in as much as we can. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're at the beginning of this, and I think one of the keys, just like all the work we do through mental health, like, we're three people that are really committed to the human-to-human connection and to relationship and quite frankly, like, being vulnerable with each other. And so I think the three of us are going to work because we keep having the conversation. Like, is this working for you? Is it not? What part of this is hard? You gave up your baby, right? Like, we have this conversation where I'm like, okay, you have given up your child that you created to Crisis Text Line. Are we managing this well enough? What can we do better? We've been talking for 5 years and, have an MOU and all of these things, but then are talking about, okay, how can we do this in a way that you feel really good about it, both and I will say, as an organization based in the United States, based with technology, most funding comes from the US, even though there's less available. So I, having worked in the philanthropy space for decades now, feel very obligated to find solutions. This isn't about Crisis Text Line. This is about how do we make sure every human has the support they need when they need it. Oh, right?
Don't you all want to partner with her? Oh my gosh. Just the way you said that, it's like you're actually living what you teach people in your volunteers. I'm like, I can't imagine going into a business deal with someone saying, how do you feel about this? I'd be like, really? Instead, it's like, did you read clause 3? There's a waiver and a subrogation, and maybe there's a frustration of purpose clause. This sounds much better.
I'd see my therapist to help deal with my ego, really.
There we go. I think I really like it. Just because there's an age spectrum in our room, I'll put myself over on the side since I was talking about the original Jurassic Park and Star Wars earlier. I was amazed when I first heard as far as how the younger generation, which doesn't take much from me, don't actually want text as opposed to in person. I was amazed. I talked to a couple of you about that, but I think that might be an insight for some of the people in the room. Because I would have thought, oh, if they can't get to someone, then they'll use text. And I think you all have kind of swayed me that it's actually the other direction.
Well, and I'll even just say, like, WhatsApp. Like, you guys can talk about.
Yeah, for my point of view is that we have to be talking with the youth as the way they talk. When was the last time you see a teenager talking by phone? No?
Gotta meet them where they are.
Exactly. So they are talking by text, and they feel more relief when they are talking their intimacy or something that they are feeling bad through text. Of course, I love the conversation face to face. Of course, we need Glasswing. We need all types of conversations, but to reach those who are in need and don't want to be helped, but they say, okay, just one message. And that simple message is like the first step of all ladder that will take that person to a better life.
I'll just say quickly, and I think I have a 14-year-old, and he's like, I want to meet up with my friends. I'm like, okay, call them. He's like, yeah, I'm waiting. They're going to, I texted them, and you're like, pick up the phone. So I think that there's something really important about that first point of contact being easy, gentle. No one can see you. You don't feel judged. You frankly could make up your name. You could say anything. But I also think, and I think this goes into the volunteer thing. Like, I also think we have to find ways to get kids to connect, reconnect outside of that. So I think that's where that circularity comes in, and the volunteerism, because I think if you're old enough to become a volunteer, we're starting to do more training of adolescents. And I know Lady Gaga's foundation has a training, the Be There certificate. So there are other organizations doing that. But I think community service, civic engagement, which is something that's really dropped. That's an amazing way to improve your well-being. I mean, anybody who volunteers in here, giving blood, whatever it is, being there for someone else. So I think, how do we start there, but also pull that in and find ways to engage young people, particularly, or anybody, in civic service through volunteerism, like leaving all the partisan stuff aside, because that purpose, that hope, is also something that if we can, as a mental health community, really nudge towards that. I think that's super important, and it's just will create a greater good, right?
I agree. Dina, I'm going to give you the last word.
Oh, okay. So I'm just going to say, because I wanted to add, you can't say it better than you got to meet people where they are. Mm-hmm. But I also, what you're seeing in the news a lot with AI companions, right? So that's a trend we're not going to be able to stop. But I want people, especially those of you telling stories, to really think about why especially young people are attracted to that, right? So there is part of it is the same reason they're attracted to text. It's easy. It's what they do. Our text volunteering works because you don't see a face, you don't hear a voice. We actually see less bias in interactions because of that. But also, most importantly, they don't feel judged. And so we create a space, and it is one of the primary factors of what we do, where there is no judgment. People come as they are. That is one of the reasons they're going to a computer and thinking that that is their companion, is because they're not being judged. And so I think that's something that we all need to reflect on our lives, in how we engage with each other, and how do we create a space and interactions with everybody around us where people can be themselves and we can hold space for difference.
Oh, I love that. And we should do that right here, right now. So that's today. When we go to lunch, we're going to create space for each other. I think that's a good call to action. I like that. So I'm going to sum up with a couple of thoughts, and then we have your video to show. So Crisis Text Line. And one of the things that we wanted to say too, and to bring it into film, is one of my goals would be is, what if you're doing a film out there that is potentially has a trigger for people? I mean, what if you added a QR code to go to Crisis Text Line? That is how filmmakers and change makers get together. And instead of doing a popcorn bucket that's shaped like a dune worm, which was pretty cool, but still. She has one. Okay, we're talking afterwards. I see. Oh, I see you. I love this. Anyway, but what if on that popcorn bucket was also a QR code if you're seeing a certain type of film? This is how we can take that action into reality. And then on a personal level, we wanted to talk about something that we all could do, which actually one of my friends did this yesterday, and it was lovely, is just... I forget, it says there's a statistics here, but my phone is dying, that as people get lonely in days and we don't often have time to reach out with big conversations, just think of someone you could text, even right now, and just say, "You're awesome, I'm thinking of you." That's it. We can do that. It takes 4 seconds. She's doing it right now. This is my A student right here. And you can do that. It gives you a buzz, gives them a buzz too, and think about doing that throughout your day. I see somebody else taking out their phone. But before we end, let's watch your video. And then after that, we're going to go to lunch and we'll call you back in. I know you're a rowdy crew. When we have phenomenal panels after lunch, YouTube creators, and then also we're talking about the Sing Sing Chronicles of prison reform, using our platform for good. Let's watch this video before we go to lunch.
Crisis Text Line does so much, and they train so many volunteers. No matter if the problem seems really small to you or really big, we're always here to listen.
Texting is a great tool for mental health and emotional support because it is discreet and it can meet anyone, anywhere, at any time. In moments of high emotional and mental health distress, the words are harder to find when you're speaking, but it's easier to write them. It is hard today, and so managing your individual well-being is important, more important than ever.
Being able to give you the space to talk about what's going on can be life-saving. That's why we need Crisis Text Line to continue, is because we're saving lives.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.